Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Criterion of Action with Al-Amal. And if you are following the Dar al-Minhaj Arabic edition, we are on page 282. بيان طريقنا في الغم في الدنيا, the cure for sadness in the here below. Imam Al-Ghazali said, Rahmanullah, when a man is sound of mind and healthy in body and has sufficient provision for the day, any sadness or grief he may feel about the affairs of the here below are the result of his deficiency and folly. This is because sadness must pertain to either regret for the past, fear of the future, or grief for the present moment. If it is for the past, the intelligent person should be able to see that grieving for the past does not solve anything or bring back what is lost. If something cannot be remedied, there is no use grieving for it. Thus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you might not grieve for what escaped you. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم. And the poet said, will sorrow do me any good? Such I that I should sorrow. Should be. If it is for the present, it must be occasioned by envy for a blessing that has reached somebody one knows, or sorrow at one's own poverty and lack of wealth, power, and worldly means. The cause of this is ignorance of the perils and poisons of the world. For if one truly knew them, one would thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for being excused them rather than having them piled up upon one's back, a burden. If the infatuated lover reflects on how the beauty of his infatuation's object will end, he will lose his infatuation. Time will make sure that this happens. In fact, the couple, if they get old together, they might look alike. He knows that the here below is filled with trial and turbidity, and that it has all manner of tribulation at man with every bite he takes of it. At any moment, in the here below, every person is exposed to 3 arrows: the arrow of adversity, the arrow of loss, and the arrow of desire. These arrows assail him constantly from all sides, sometimes missing and sometimes hitting. The one who reflects on how every day is a renewing cycle of fortunes being wrested from those who enjoy them, and calamities befalling them, and their intense grief at their loss, will not grieve at being denied them. Someone was once asked, why are you never sad? He replies, because I'm never contented. I'm never contented by anything I would be sad to lose. When one contemplates how ignorant the masters of the here below are of the hereafter, and how in tribulations they suffer there, he will be content to do without it and happy to relinquish it. The question, why are you never sad? The answer, لأني لا أقتني ما يغمني فقده. I don't buy, I don't acquire, I don't hold on to but really I don't buy. I would say that not having a car is good for the environment on one level, but not having car means that you will never have an accident yourself in the sense of driving it, or in the sense of nobody will ever be able to scratch it, and it will not be a problem to find a parking space, something that is extremely problematic in Jerusalem. Extremely problematic. A Sufi once took upon himself a vow that every day he would visit the hospital to witness the suffering of the sick, and the Sultan's jail to witness the criminals being punished, and the cemetery to witness the mourners and their sorrow at what cannot be helped, while the dead are busy with their own affairs. He would return home having spent the day feeling gratitude at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed him by sparing him from all these tribulations. As long as he lives, a man ought always to consider those worse off than him in the year below, so that he will be thankful, as well as those above him in religion, so that he will be motivated. When Satan takes over a man, he reverses this perspective. Therefore, when he is asked why he did a shameful action, he argues that so and so did something even worse, though in fact there can be no debating about sin or unbelief. And when asked why he is not satisfied with what he has, he says, so and so has more. So why should I be content with what he would not be? This is the very epitome of misguidance and pure ignorance. Once a person manages to realize this truth, he will no longer feel the sorrow of envy. For if Allah gives a blessing to someone who deserves it, he will not envy it. And if he gives it to someone who does not deserve it, it will do them more harm than good. As for sorrow, for the future, so past, present, and now future. If it is for something impossible or something inevitable, such as death, it cannot be cured. If it is for something that merely possible, it must be examined. It must be examined further. If it is something that cannot be avoided, such as death before old age, then sorrow for it is folly. If it is something that can be avoided, then it is meaningless to feel sad about it. Rather, one should apply one's mind to think of how to avoid it, instead of clouding the mind with sorrow. If one does as much as one can do to avoid it, one should then await Allah's decree with a tranquil heart, knowing that there is no avoiding what He decrees. If it is not avoided, one should meet it with patient forbearance, with the realization that whatever decrees will come to pass, and remembering Allah's words. No misfortune befalls no misfortune befalls in the earth or in yourselves, but it is in a book before we bring it about. Truly, that is easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Truly, that is easy for Allah. This, that you may not grieve for what escapes you, nor exult in what He gives you. ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها. Before even creating the earth, before the tribulation is brought about, before we bring it about. People's eagerness to amass the means of the here below is rooted in delusion and the misplaced optimism that misfortunes will be circumvented and glad times will be ever present. Far from it. Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh, said, whenever people congratulate others, fate plots an ill day for them. ما قال الناس لقوم طوبى لكم إلا وقد خبأ لهم الدهر إياهما سوء. How right the poet was when he said, the nights are never kind to anyone without following their kindness with cruelty. إن الليالي لم تحسن إلى أحد إلا أست إليه بعد إحسانه. Abu Mansur al-Tha'alibi spared no effort in describing the here below when he said, slip away from the here below, do not ask for its hand. Do not marry a bride who slays her groom. Her delights are not worth her sorrows. Upon reflection, her harms outweigh her charms. Much has been said about it, and for my part, I have my own way of describing it. Wine served in a poisonous cup, a magnificent horse that will not obey, a handsome man the people adore, though he harbors the ugliest secrets. When the so this is the we have basically 5 full verses of poetry, and each one of course is divided into 2 parts. Yes. Slip away from the here below. Do not ask for its hand. Do not marry a bride who slays her groom. In fact, find something to busy yourself with something other than this dunya, other than this, and other than the here below. And do not ask the hand of a killer, like of a serial killer. قتالة, serial killer. قتالة. Yes. I could not help but think of an interview with a woman in jail in the United States. This interview was like at least 30 years ago. So she was asked, why did you kill your first husband? She said, in self-defense. They asked her, why did you kill your second husband? She said, in self-defense. So she killed the first husband. She claimed self-defense. She went to jail for a few years. She was out. She got married again, and she killed her husband. Now, we don't know the unknown, the unseen. We don't know the future, but if she has a chance and she gets out of jail again and she nails someone as the third husband, as a possibility, that's her record, that's her CV. So probably he is doomed. I'm not trying to say that it is, but simply sometimes even Imam Al-Ghazali said that an exaggeration is not necessarily wrong, it's not false because it's an exaggeration. قتالة does mean that this dunya will kill everyone, but it should be avoided as much as possible. When the intelligent person reflects on these things, most sorrows will become light in his heart. Unless a particularly firm bond has formed between him and the object of his infatuation, be it a human being, wealth, property, profession, power, authority, or some other such matter. There is no way to escape the woes of such things except by breaking the bonds to them, which can only be done by gradually withdrawing the soul from them and engaging in something else instead. This other thing could even be something else that ought to be avoided. If the bond to the first one would be too strong to break otherwise, for sometimes one must wash off blood with blood. This statement was preceded by ولكن لا بأس بغسل الدم بالدم إذا كان الأول أشد لصوقا والتزاقا. The detail here is that if the first blood was sticking and the second one is it's not sticking, it's I know the image is problematic. In another manuscript, it is washing blood with urine. Both are unclean. This is one of the subtle matters of spiritual discipline. For breaking off a firm habit instantly is difficult or even impossible. This is why a child is instilled with morals by being rewarded with ball games and pet bears, and then weaned off games with rewards of wealth and riches such as fine clothing and the like, and then further elevated with rewards of praise and admiration and the prospect of attaining nobility and power, and then further elevated with the promise of happiness in the hereafter. Desire for power is the last thing to be eliminated from the hearts of the folk of great faith. This method of treating the soul with things that are inherently undesirable, but desirable relative to what is worse than them, constitutes the journey of ascension the human being must traverse, one stage at a time. This gradual process is the only way to break free. This must be applied to every trait that overcomes the heart and forms a strong bond with it. By severing bonds, cutting off the relationship, by severing bonds, sorrows are erased. The attachments, cutting off the attachments. Thus we reach the end of this chapter, inshallah. Tomorrow we'll deal with conquering the fear of death, بيان نفي الخوف من الموت. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.